morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you? Happy day.
Happy day. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while.
I know it's been almost 48 hours. What's up with that?
I know. Well, it was crazy because it's to the listeners, we just had Easter. It was the
Yes.
most amazing food. It was the most amazing company. I slept over there 2 nights, which I've never done before, and that was just so fun.
It was a lot of
Um,
fun. I
it
really
was
enjoyed having you
good.
there. There's something to be said about watching adults Easter egg hunt. I loved it.
Oh,
The neighbors loved it. Anyone who walked on the sidewalk loved it. It was a
yeah.
great
I was gonna
time.
say especially when there's a competitive thing, we're all shameless. We're like we
Well,
don't even.
sure.
This is not
Exactly.
about y'all.
Right. I'll tell you, age is not a factor when there's eggs out there to be found.
No, especially when they're well hidden. Like I kept
Exactly.
telling
Still looking for one.
your husband Brian did the hiding that morning. Oh my gosh, it was so well done. Did you guys ever find that other one?
No, we figure we'll
So
find it by next
funny.
year.
Oh yeah, the lucky one.
The lucky one is exactly it. Well, when
Yeah.
you put cash in the eggs, they make them. It makes it a little bit more intense to look for them, and also to find the ones that are lost. So we'll
Do you,
find it eventually.
do you
But
think that the nature of money because of the way society treats it, it
yes,
wants to be found?
it wants to
So
be found. Yes,
yeah, so it's
I
different
mean,
than maybe the chocolate.
well,
I
exactly.
wonder.
And I love chocolate, but I don't like to have to go foraging for it. I like to just pull it out of
Right.
my fridge or on my countertop. So money is a good thing. And for those viewers and listeners looking for that lost egg in my front yard, go away.
Right.
It's my egg.
We think it's pink. No.
It's pink. You think we'd find it in a shrub, right? But oh
Oh
well.
yeah. Well, speaking of money, I mean, so we were just talking about this the other day, but we didn't get to talk about this. The internet scamming thing. Everyone, oh my God, you just like you get an email. It's like we need the new ones, the US delivery packaging. Have you seen
Oh my
that?
gosh.
So it's like it'll be like, oh, your package didn't get delivered. It got sent to a care thing. People click on it. It's like, oh, $20 to get access to your or whatever. Before you know it,
Right.
you're just putting. It's so
Please,
wild.
listeners and viewers, I mean, what Sterling said is it's really an epidemic right now. I have so many clients, and it just really just breaks my heart. I can't begin to tell you how just maddening it is. I have, very intelligent clients that get caught up and bamboozled in these scams. I can tell you right now, if you're on a dating site, people, and your person is in the secret
Mm.
service, deep, deep in the military, undercover, going dark, and they will be gone for months until you're able to help them get back because somehow or another the government check's not going to find them in the heat of the situation, and they need you to send them $3,000 because they really want to see you in person because they're going to move in with you and you're going to have babies and have a picket fence, and they just love, love, love you. They've never met you, of course. They probably have 10 people on the hook. And, my husband and I were talking about this morning because I got a lovely gram yesterday. I'll tell you briefly about it.
Oh
But
no.
what we were talking about this morning, these scammers get on there, and, if they've got 10 or 15 people they're communicating with, at least one or two of them is going to bite. And there's going to be someone out there who's, and I don't want to say desperate enough because I know love is a painful path sometimes. And we get caught up in looking for true love and really in all the upside down ways. But if one or two people agree to send money or agree to follow this scam, that's what makes this scam alive. I got one yesterday, and first I have to tell you, I'm getting older, as you can tell by the bags under my eyes and the lack of sleep that we seem to have more and more.
I know we can't.
I will tell you, I got this gram, and I call it a gram. I used to call them nasty grams, but it wasn't that bad. After a long day of a long evening of classes, and it said, "Hey, beautiful." Well, I'm like, "Yeah, you're talking to me, all right. Yeah, I like it. So far, so good. Not a scammer, right?"
Right, right.
um, I like your pictures. Whoa, me too. That's
Oh
why I
my
got them
God.
up there.
The ones
But
of you and your husband.
yeah, exactly. I want to get to know you. So
Oh, and we do
I'd
like to
like you
be
to
known.
be reaching out to me, and I want to be your internet. This is a good one. Internet sugar daddy. Don't worry, no sex. We don't even have to meet. I just want to be your internet sugar daddy, and I'm going to send you $5,000 a week.
Well, Terry, if you don't want him, send him my way.
Well, hey, there you go. I'm thinking, dude, I don't have to do a darn
Yeah.
thing other than just go, hey, look at my pretty pictures. This is my husband.
So
These are my
funny.
kids. These are my
Oh my
cats.
God.
But the realism here is what we see. And yes, I'm sure someone looked at that and probably saved it under their favorites because they're going to read it over and over because it's part of an ego trip. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to feel special
Mm-hmm.
in some of the strangest ways. But what I realized immediately, because I talked to so many people that have been scammed so many different ways and times, is that all I needed to do was to respond to that, and the next thing would have been, "Hey, baby, I need your bank account. I'm going to send you $5,000."
Mm.
Whoa. I'll tell you, that's better than a part-time job, right?
Oh my goodness.
Except now you have my bank account information. And not only do you have my bank account information, but you probably have my social security because I'm stupid enough at that point to give it all away. Because I'm looking for 5,000, baby.
Well,
And we
but
realize
and in this economy though, if you don't understand that sometimes like we don't really always admit how new the internet is.
we
So you've
don't.
got large swaths of the populace that
That's
are
exactly
still
right.
kind of not used to it. And then on top of the connection issues in the community of our
Hmm.
world these days, and then the
Yep.
fact that all we really want is presence anyway, but we might still have commitment issues, so we don't really
True.
want a real boyfriend. This internet saga, this through messages, and it feeds kind of maybe the reason people are alone in the first place. They don't want to
Right.
go and do that real thing. And then it
Well,
also provides that
absolutely.
pseudo. So you're like, okay, if you're willing to talk to, and I was laughing earlier, but we both are aware of several people who have connections to the spiritual community, but really they also just want connection in general.
Yes.
And they get got, and it's like it's bad. I mean, I don't know how, it's so bad because like at my age,
Mm.
I'm 29, for the majority of my life, I've had an understanding of enough of the internet to where, like, even a couple of months ago, I got an email that was scary about Encore, my electricity. I was out of
Ah.
my house. The last thing I could do, or the most panicky you could ever make me, is to tell me some bill didn't get paid because all my bills are always paid. So it's
Exactly.
like I'm away from the house. They're telling me I get shut off. I read the email. I don't even notice they've misspelled Encore. I'm
Of
29.
course.
You would think this would, I'd be like, oh, what? No, and then finally, I'm like driving home. I'm trying to make sure, what do I do if my fridge is off? All these things. And then they're like, well, come pay us at our office. So I'm like, fuck, okay. So excuse me. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Then I'll go there and I plug in the address. It's not an active address. So
No.
I'm like, well, that's weird. Then finally I'm on the phone still, and he says, well, you can pay me through uh like some money order. Like, so you mean to tell me that you don't take cash or card? And then it's starting to download that things aren't. I'm like, how is there, if you've got somebody in their upper 50s and they've spent the majority of their life with no access to it, how do they have a chance?
Well,
When
they
I'm
don't
sitting
have a
there
chance.
hook, line, and sinker trying to pay my bill and it's not even real.
Well, and it's not. And it's fascinating. Oh, not fascinating. It's actually pretty frightening. I have a client who's an elderly woman, love her to death. A great, great woman. Just do anything for anyone. And she had this guy reach out to her. Of course, deep in the military, they all are. Secret Service, doing undercover covert operation. That's why I can't send you
Classified,
any
top clearance.
classified. I love those words. Yes. And so what he said to
Oh,
her, which was another twist on a twist, right? He said, I need your help because I don't have a bank here. I don't have any way of getting my money, my paychecks and everything,
it's crazy.
put into the bank. So what I'd like to do is send them to you and you can deposit them. And then when I'm able to, I'll ask you to send me the money. Well, we recognize it because we've seen this so many times in different ways, in this way as well. That really what was happening is the question should have been, "Hey, lady, you seem vulnerable. I like that. I want you to launder some money for me. So, babe,
Mm,
don't worry. I got your account number, and if you really tick me off later, I'll go ahead and seize all your money in it. But put it there, and then later on, I'm going to ask you to send me $5,000 at a time." So that nobody's the wiser and I'm stealing from all these other businesses. And you're the one actually who's going to take the fall for it because all I'm doing is just having you send money to crypto coin or having you
oh
send
my
money
gosh,
to
yeah.
my offshore accounts. So
Well,
that
it's
I
a
know
form
that
of elderly
sounds
abuse.
It is elderly abuse, and that's exactly it. So that's another scam. And Sterling, to wrap it up to our listeners and viewers, from my perspective on this, um, I, if I listened to any of those emails and text messages, I would never have Netflix. I'd have at least 10 subscriptions to $499 Nortons. Okay.
Yep.
I would be arrested for porn on every level of any
Oh my
place. I would
goodness.
have been cleaning out the department stores of gift cards to send them to everyone that I offended. Uh,
Oh my gosh.
I would never have any kind of life whatsoever. So please, if it doesn't look right, guess what? It's not. If you think, and Sterling, you're an amazing person, and I know you were freaking out about that. If your lights are going to be shut off, I bet there's somebody you can click on the websites. A lot of us do know how to get into. If you don't, let me know and I'll help you. Get into the businesses you do business with, the authentic, realistic websites,
Yeah, that
not
was
the
so
ones they
weird.
direct you to.
And it was Encore, but they had done, oh, the N was like a O or an R. It was like
Yep.
it was an R and an I or something, and I'm just panicking, so I'm not even
Yes.
looking at that. So it almost got me. Thank God the guy said something dumb on the phone. I was thinking that now I'm present again, because the fear gets you back here. You're like, oh, I just
Sure.
need to fix it. I just need to fix it.
Well, and we don't want to make you paranoid, but really, if it says click here, please
Yep.
don't.
Don't do it.
If you miss a few pictures of someone's puppy dogs or kittens or their latest and greatest, driveway or whatever it may be, then you can get it later. But if it says click here and someone you don't know, please don't click there.
Yeah.
Don't click there.
Yeah. It's just not going to go well.
It isn't. I know. It's terrible.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I'm glad that at least I do think too. The more it does get spoken about, especially with some of the communities that are coming into, I mean, like all the bills are paid online, right? If you
Yes.
don't really understand how the internet works, which is fine, but that is a thing, we got to get you in touch with somebody who does, so that you're not scrambling your private information.
Oh, absolutely. And that's really it is. It's giving your private information out, and the $4.99 Norton, I get that about once a week. Between that and Netflix being canceled and PayPal being gone and my SM
goodness.
radio stations are no longer valid and you name it, my life is in shambles according to the internet.
According to the spams.
That's right,
Oh,
the spams.
goodness.
I'll be damned, it's spam. 50% of my messages are probably spam.
Well, and discernment
Discernment.
with everything.
Discernment with
People,
everything.
Psychics, mediums,
Discernment with everything.
mail.
That's right. Listen, listeners, if I could lose out on $5,000 a week by being cautious, you too can.
Fair. Nope. It's always worth mentioning.
It is.
Well, Miss Terri Groom.
That's me.
That is you, my favorite, of course. We're
Ah,
gonna
you're
go
so
ahead
sweet,
and grab.
Leah.
I just realized we didn't say hello, so we're gonna jump into that. So welcome. Don't
Welcome.
get scammed.
Is this thing on?
Yes, yeah, right. Welcome to The Wolf and the Bear, an educational spiritual podcast starring psychic medium and channel Terri Groom, and me as your host, Sophia Sterling. This podcast is to bring real spiritual knowledge channeled straight from the source or straight from our personal experience, without ego and wisdom. I mean, without ego, as Terri said.
Well, I don't know.
With love first and then wisdom. Lord have mercy. We need coffee. We got to get it rolling.
I know. I picked
we had
my
quite a
cup
bit of
up.
wine this weekend. We had so much good food.
I know.
We're back
Well,
to
I am
business.
drinking coffee, but it's got one hell of an echo. So if you hear boom, that was not a sonic boom. That was Terri's coffee cup going back on the counter.
Was it the eclipse?
You never know.
Have you heard anything
I've been
new
in
about
the dark
that?
before. I'm not surprised.
I know. Yeah, there's just to go into a little bit of curiosity with me. Apparently, I've seen some of the images again, just talking about being scammed and the fakeness of everything. But in the spiritual community, we spoke about this a couple weeks ago. I'll bring it up again too, because this will post right before.
Yes.
But there are some weird images coming out with like some moon stuff happening, where we're seeing double moons. Some people are seeing they're seeing ecliptic things happening in the sky, except the moon's over here.
Right.
So who knows what's going on, and I certainly won't make arguments about any of that. but it does seem like if there was something about the nature of our sky, right, and there is some form of the way that should always look for us, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's like
Absolutely.
it would make sense. There seems to be a lot of concern that maybe whatever this electromagnetic energy is with the eclipse could be affecting whatever the concealing components would be, or there might even be a revealing aspect to it. So
That
I'm
makes
very
sense.
curious. The conspiratorial part of me wants to see, the eclipse only to see, is the moon going to be where we think it's supposed to be? I don't know
Well, and
why
that's a
that.
good point.
There's
And
something up about that.
and in all of your excitement and eagerness, make sure you're wearing appropriate eyewear so it's not the last thing you actually see, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That would be important.
So
And that's for
funny.
all of you out there too. Okay. I know we've got a lot of educational information today between the scammers, but save your eyes. Put some glasses on.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the reading glasses from the counter.
No, but and I hate to say this, but in Texas at least, I keep trying to tell people the weather's not supposed to be great for us.
No.
So do double check your travel plans, because I think we're
Yes.
supposed to be in the middle of a storm, actually. Like it's
Well,
supposed to
boy.
drop
Boy,
weather.
that's.
So, and we've already heard some travel plans from people. Like,
I know. I feel really bad. My husband is so excited. I've heard about it now since we've known it existed. And so we prepared a year ago for glasses and the whole thing. And, my husband hasn't had to go out of town for work in some time. So naturally, Monday's the day he's in another state. The one time in the last 3 years, Monday's the day he's out of state.
oh
No
my goodness.
eclipse there, darling.
No.
So I'm sorry. I'm going to have to take a double look with my fantastic glasses, and hopefully I'll be able to pass it along. But if
Yeah.
I'm not, all you viewers and listeners, I expect lots of Facebook pictures so I can click and paste them to mine. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I do recall that happening recently to me.
It
Anyway,
happens. Yes.
remember, anyways, anywho, the last eclipse, my dear friend who reposted my photo, we
Yes.
love him.
Well, if it's there, it's there, right? I mean, just as good on mine. No, I won't do that to you without your permission. Yeah, right.
Oh, no.
Just make sure you like it. Then I'll know that you see it.
Fair, right, exactly. You leave me credit, no. But,
We-
I did want to ask you, because we did talk about your upcoming thing with Night Eye Paranormal.
Oh, yes.
What tell me about this.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I really truly am. I don't know if this is a good excitement or not, but
Oh no.
we I do a lot of work. My business is Vita Perceptions, and I'm also a paranormal investigator. I've worked for a couple different groups over the years, and I love what I do. I grew up in a haunted house. I lived in a haunted house, and not now. So don't be looking for
She
orbs
means that
behind
literally,
me.
though, guys, not like that her family put on a haunted house for the community,
No,
but that you had a very, very active home.
that's right. And listen carefully. The ghosts are real. So
I mean,
what we
they are.
realized. Now I've got everyone's attention, right? They're wondering.
Yeah.
But we do have an investigation, Night Eye Paranormal, near and dear to my heart. We do a lot of investigations together. We did. He is my son, and we grew up. Well, he grew up. I haven't yet grown up. We were living in a house together through his childhood, and it was quite haunted.
You said that's so funny. You said we were in a house together. He's your son.
Well, I just
Fair,
want to make
right.
sure there's no confusion.
I feel you.
No, I
Just
didn't keep
messing
him
with
in the
you.
backyard. He was in the house. So, oh my gosh, this is fun today. It helps not having much coffee or sleep.
Well,
Wow.
I'm actually down to just send it, chaotic as we can be. It's
I
fine.
love it. I'm
We've
going to
had
tell
serious ones.
Yes, I know. I'm revved up, ready to go. But before I do that, listeners and viewers, well, listeners, you don't really care at all, but the viewers, I am now staring into the camera.
Over Easter, we were rewatching for the first time, and listen, guys, I adore Terri. I really don't know if I think she can do wrong, but the whole time, Terri was like, I say, I look down, and to me, I feel like you're the most effortless orator, and you don't practice this. You just are good at it. I don't So, but yes,
Oh, you're
she was
so
like, "I keep
amazing.
looking down," and I was like, "No, you're fine. I promise."
I got you bamboozled. I love it. But now I'm looking at the camera now, and I'm going to tell you it's really good for the baggy eyes because looking up makes them go down. The other way, it looks like a droopy dog, and I'm looking in my lap like something's going on there. So I am looking up at you now. There we go. But let's get back to the paranormal. So Night Eye Paranormal and I, we teach, believe it or not, we teach classes on paranormal activity, paranormal investigations, different tools, methodologies, what is a haunting, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 2-day course. We've got another one coming up. When, I don't know, so don't ask, but I know it's this year. But we are finishing out a second investigation with our last team of very brilliant students. And so we actually scheduled this secondary. We did we're going to do 2 of them. We scheduled this originally, of course, can you imagine, on Super Bowl Sunday, and everyone was like, "No, what are you, nuts?" So that didn't work. But we went ahead and scheduled it, and guess when? The night before the eclipse. So we are actually going to be at a beautiful location. Can't tell you when and where right now because you'll be lining up. Instead of the eclipse, you'll be looking for us. So we don't want that. We're not that special. But we will be there throughout the night on Sunday with our equipment. And so we recognize that might be a real interesting experience because it should be an uptick of energy all the way around. And so if we are fortunate enough, we'll find something on our cameras or we'll find something on our EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomena, that might be out of the ordinary for the timing. We didn't plan it to be the day before the eclipse.
That is so strange. What makes you say that you think, because obviously I have some suspicions, what makes you think that that will be a much more active evening in spirit?
Well, I too have watched Encounters of the Third Kind. And
that's a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay.
It's supposed to be funny, Sterling.
Oh, well, no, I mean, in my head, I'm like, wait, is there, I'm such, I'm a nerd.
I'm looking down at my lap again, folks.
I know, you're good.
No, it's simply a movie about space and alien energies and alien interactions. Now, what do I think I'm going to get in my EVPs? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully something decent. I don't know if it'll have really any bearing on the fact there is or isn't an eclipse.
Well, I worry for your gear.
Well, I worry for my gear too because I'm in charge of making sure it's not lost or stolen.
Oh, well, no, I mean, the thing that generally seems to be true about these shifts, these ecliptic shifts, is that they're very, very electromagnetic.
They are very electromagnetic.
So it's either going to make, I mean, in my opinion, just intuitively, either it will be less challenging for those energies to trip the energy because they'll have more sway already. Yes. It'll be amplified.
Absolutely.
Or the gear will not function the way that it should because maybe it's in our mind, like, I know it doesn't work quite. Imagine a hand reaching instead of it reacting 1 + 1. Maybe there's a shock, and then the channels or challenges the gear in a way. So I could see that. I don't think that the veil is thinning necessarily. Oh well, but maybe that's what that means.
Well, we don't really know, but the electromagnetic field does become, I don't want to say compromised, but it certainly is changing.
And that's the entirety of the gear.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is, I'm going to be needing a GoFundMe page by the time my investigation is over to replace all my hardware that's bit the dust.
I didn't even think about that though, because they already do quite control that world anyway.
Yes.
Oh, that's wow.
True. And
so
it's interesting
to buffer that.
Well, and we didn't really give it much consideration until we started connecting the dots. We've got a busy schedule, so we're like, wait. And then plus the owner of the establishment that we were visiting was like, hey, you do know that the eclipse is hours later when you leave. I'm like, whoa, how cool is that? No, I'm uninformed and unaware, which I really was. So I'm just very grateful that he's still on board with it. It is going to be a late night for us and for the 6 students that will be accompanying us. And so we recognize that it might be a pretty cool adventure. Paranormal
depending on how much of a baby I am, I may or may not be in attendance with you guys.
Well, that's okay. Just know that if you show up and you sit in your car because you don't want to come in and deal with it.
No.
I have seen spaceships come and get you out of the vehicle.
Oh, no, so. In situations like this, the closer I am to you, the better I'll feel about all of it. I'm like, I would never. No, I'll be right. I'll be like, I'll hold your bag. What do you want me to hold?
Well, right, and I think that's lovely because if it's between you or me and they take one of us, thank you, Sterling. Love you. No, you
But
know I'm kidding. I'm going to. I've always wanted to be in the belly of a spaceship, or
oh
well, let
man.
me say something like that. I don't even know what that would be. But no, in all in realistic side of this is we don't know what to expect. You
Yeah.
know, we recognize that there is a pulse that's likely to exist, you know, magnetic draw. And so we'll see. You know, if nothing else, I'll have a lot of interesting data, whether it be the paranormal from the spirits or from the paranormal or the interaction of the, you know, of the system, the I almost said ecosystem. It's not the star system up there, people up there,
Right.
that we would be having just information from. We'll see.
Well, it to the point of the eclipse sort of thing, and I don't know how this will affect our energy because obviously we do have a lot of it over Dallas Fort Worth.
Yes, we do.
It's I mean the majority it's going to be quite present here. So when people are you familiar with like the Masonic compass?
You know, I've heard of it, but I am not by any means an expert on it.
It's basically just like a mathematic equation. It's a representation of these angles.
Right.
And so when you go into the occult stuff, there's a recognition that basically it does also represent the angles of the moon and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so they
Mm-hmm.
perceive it as that. And this I think even is also fascinating. People allege this. I've not tried to measure it,
Mm-hmm.
but they actually say that the moon gives cool light. So if you have a sidewalk at night,
Right.
the area that the moonlight is present will be like 4 degrees lower than an area that it's not shining.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if this is true, but I've seen enough videos where they're alleging these numbers are accurate and stuff. So then you go into, eclipse when as about the positive energy and the negative energy are in alignment.
Right.
So I wonder, if you are a past spirit that's still present in the physical plane, does that would you actually run and hide? Like, would you be like, this is not my energy, this is not normal energy. We might make ourselves scarce because this does feel unfamiliar.
And it could be. You're right. It's either going to be an uptick of energy and action, or it will be, you know, a very subtle reaction. I'm not sure. That's a good point, and I'm really curious about this.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to this. You know, you know, I've done overnighters before, and they're fun. This is not quite an overnighter. We'll be home before the sun comes up for sure. But I recognize, you know, there's a lot of data that we're likely to get. Just again, not because and I want to remind the viewers, you know, you don't have to wait till 3 a.m. for activity to exist or for to be present on equipment. But it is one of the times because it is where everything is more still. Even you late night owls are usually, you know, finding your way to bed by then. So it is a time where there's just less static, is what I refer to it as human static or static from us as living beings, and it does tend to be more active. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting.
Do you think that it makes a difference as far as if the sun has a domain and a frequency that's relatively considered of the good? A lot of our deities wear the sun behind them, Jesus, so it's
That's true.
associated with nobility typically. And then
Right.
obviously the moon, it is much more about, um, I mean, if you want to go
Werewolves.
into, say again?
Werewolves.
But the darker side of our
Right.
nature,
That's
right? And
exactly
so
true.
I wonder, I mean, because I remember I've done, yeah, I've done 2 explorations with Night Eye with you
Hmm.
guys,
Hmm.
and they were during the day. We
Right.
still did interact with some interesting energies that were just not of the light per se,
Right.
but it would make sense if we were in the domain of the area that's already emboldening perhaps some
Absolutely.
more, whatever, I don't wanna say negative, but just the domains of the night, you
Right,
know?
the domains of the night. And, you know, especially with businesses, because there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of interaction, and, you know, people are coming and going in businesses, we recognize that during the day, that energy becomes just very heightened because, you know, you may have 5 customers, 10 customers, 30 customers, plus the employees. So there's a lot of energy already there. So imagine in the evening, I mean, if I was a spirit, I'd be like, man, it's too noisy out here. It's too crowded out here. I'm coming back when the rest of the place is shut down. I'm going to come and
Mhm.
enjoy the quiet and stillness. I'm going to navigate around because there's no one else here. So in a business setting, it is easier to gain, especially a busy business. It's easier to gain information to gain feedback on
Mm-hmm.
our equipment. So we do
Mm-hmm.
see that in the evenings it is a little bit more lively.
Well, and we did have a night component to. I did forget that. At one of the other locations we did. Man, it is very different when you can shut the lights off and lay down the EMF night like light strips.
Yes.
I mean, that's just freaky. I mean, there's no way. I think for me, I don't have as much confidence in that world, which is
Right.
ironic because I do mediumship, but it's very different because you're
It
just
is
not
different.
interfacing in a physical
Hmm.
form.
It
So I
is very
remember
different.
I was in. We were kind of everyone was sort of doing their thing, doing their part of their investigation, and a lot of what I was doing was just making sure the cameras were set up. So I remember I was on my phone, kind of messing around, and there's just nothing. You're all alone.
Yes.
Nothing's triggering. Because I remember when I was younger, I kind of used to think maybe the paranormal stuff was fabricated, or there were things about the gear that I thought maybe they're controlling. You just don't know,
Right.
and so it is so weird and like eerie in a way that some people might love. Obviously,
Hmm.
Taylor loves it. There are people that do this and they're very passionate because it's magical
It
if
is
you can see
magical.
it that way. It's also scary if you don't love the idea of sharing space in this way. So I'm just doing this, and out of nowhere, only one area kept triggering. So I do the mediumship. I do, so I kind of get my life together. I'm like, all right, thank you, because we were inviting them. Like,
Right.
thank you for being here. But I'm not the one. Like, I'm not the one who's appreciating this. You gotta go find, you gotta go
Go
trigger
find
something with
somebody else.
him. Like,
You're like, go
I
away.
remember, I was like, I may be respectful, but I'm just gonna run. So,
And that's
or
okay.
the cat toys. When
We
those go
love
off,
those
that's
cat toys.
because they're not meant for that.
Right. We won't tell the listeners and viewers a whole lot about them because we want to still be able to buy them when they're
Oh,
reasonably
good point. Yeah,
priced.
yeah.
So we don't want to run on the market with them.
Right, right, right.
But
But
it's true. And what's funny, along with what Sterling is saying, you were in the investigation we did where we had two wonderful women, two women a little older than I am. That they had taken a class. They were really great gals, and they were still a little unsure about all this dynamics.
mm,
They had both lost husbands in the spirit world, and as a medium, we were able, of course, to connect to them outside of investigations and everything. And so when they were a part of the investigation to fulfill their certification, they found a nice little quiet area, and they had a couple of these light toys that would light up if something was nearby. It would respond to energy, and so they would light up. So I still chuckle about this. I'll never forget it. So for about 2 hours of the investigation, they were entertaining themselves by reaching to their deceased husbands. Instead of the
I remember
investigation,
that.
they were asking, is this my husband? Is this, and they'd name
I
them. And the light would go on and they were tickled to death. And so they literally spend about 2 hours talking to their family members and the lights were working. I mean, we actually took some pictures. It was like, my gosh, their husbands were more active than some of the rooms in the investigation. So it
Well,
was a
why
lot of
not?
fun. And
We had a lot of zapping that day.
a lot of zapping.
A lot
And
of
the tracer
electricity.
lights you spoke about, we put the tracer lights out. They're actually one of my favorite pieces of equipment because when you put it out, so you get, I think it's 5 colors that you go through a series of colors, and some are more intense than the others. You
Yes.
start off
Oh, I
with,
forgot
just
that.
nothing, and they're pink, and they move up. We've had investigation. Well, recently we had an investigation where one room in particular, they stayed red, and we thought there was a malfunction in the tracers.
The
And
whole
so we would
room.
take it and move it to another room, and it would behave, in a normal way. It would be, where it was pink and then a little bit of yellow or orange or red, but it was nothing, incredible, nothing much. But we'd go back into this room, and immediately, within a moment or two, and we could feel it, it would go
Oh
to
man.
bright red, which
That's
is the
so
highest
crazy.
reaction to the tracers. And so we
Mm.
recognize that energy speaks to energy. We're able to to view it, to see it, to record it. We had a what we call an SLS camera. For all of you ghost hunters out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a
I love that
wonderful
I know that
opportunity.
now, only because of you
Yes, you
guys.
know that. Yes. You get to hold this beautiful camera up and it's recording data. You got to save it though. That's the big thing. It's
It's
really fun to
cool.
watch the screen until you forget you're needing it for evidence and you forget to push the button that says, I need to save this.
I love that you say, "Oh, it's so fun to hold," and literally, it's to me the most things that because it's so much information.
It's a lot of information.
And
It's a lot of
to the
data.
listeners, and please correct me if I'm wrong if I explain this incorrectly, but essentially, it's a full, it's an EMF reader that shoots out into forward space, right? And so it will pick up on EMF movements
Yes. Well,
in the air,
yes. Well, not
and
only in the air, but something walking towards you. It's the stick
yeah, like
figures for all those that
ugh,
watch these ghost hunting shows. It's the stick figures, the
that
dots,
was
the
so
matrix that
weird.
make the figures.
Well, and I mean, I might post it on the at the end of the video or just put it on the YouTube. But I mean, I have the video of so for me, this world was rush. I felt like it. I was out of it, and then I was in it very quickly
Yes.
because the first day of the class before we were just at the Richardson Center, and we did at the very end we turned on all the gear. We went into that back room,
Yes.
and I mean that was the first time I saw any of this really work like that. Because we'd done some stuff at your house, but that's different because it's your house and it's a
Right.
domain that you control quite a bit. And then
Yes.
everything just started triggering. And I have that video. And that was the first time where I was trying to act cool because I was essentially working with you guys. So I couldn't act spooked and other people in the room that I didn't want to present that vibe to. And I'm just
Exactly.
standing there. Taylor's like, hold this. And I'm watching it kind of stick figures stretch, though, in a weird way. And I'm like, I
It
think I
was
might
very
die.
strange.
It was so cool though. Cool stuff happens around you. I mean, especially if it's you, me, and Taylor at one place, I wouldn't be surprised if and when there's quite a bit of activity.
Well, there can be. And
And then
before
your
I
husband
forget,
walks in and it's gone.
it's gone. They run off.
We call him the dead zone
The
because
dead zone.
it
That's too
really
funny. Yeah,
it's
they
nice
take
though. I
off.
mean,
They're
it
like,
makes
no,
sense.
I'm not going to play with this 6'2" guy. This
Yeah.
Viking, he'll come after us.
Well, the spirit box will be so active, and then he tries, and they're like, mm-mm,
Yeah, they're like,
not
no, we're not
you,
going to do it.
not
Not going
you.
to do it. Before I forget to, if you'll send me, if you could, please, a copy of that, because I've
Yeah.
looked for that. It's so funny we're having this conversation. It was something I was going to ask you for.
Oh yeah,
If you have that,
absolutely.
if you'll shoot me an
Oh yeah,
email of that.
it's on a private YouTube playlist. I'll
Oh,
find it and
good.
send it
Thank
to you.
you. Oh, obviously.
So it was
Obviously, you're so good at all these
it was
techniques. Anyway, what we see is that there's just a lot of equipment that we can utilize to bring in images that can bring in the data of energy.
it's
We talk
undeniable.
about again, it's the EMFs, and we'll give you a little nugget of information about how things can go haywire. We find oftentimes that there's elevated readings with the EMFs, like magnetic fields. If you have, like a electrical panel, and or something that again is conducts all that energy, especially if it's in your bedroom. We visited a client that was having just a really hard time with her child. Child was a 7-year-old male, and this kiddo was having the worst dreams and just feeling like something was out to get him, and it was nonstop, and it was in his room, and it was just a crazy chaotic time. And so we brought the equipment in, and the first thing as an investigator, we want to see if there's anything with the EMF that seems out of reason, something that just seems off. So we look for electrical panels and AC units, and we go from top to bottom, and we recognize right away as we walked into his room that our EMF reader went to red, which is an
It was the
indication that we've got
kid's
high
room.
levels. And
Oh
so, of course, the
man.
electrical panel was there on the wall. And it just so happened that the electrical panel was behind the headboard. So, if
No.
you can kind of, with me, get a picture of where I'm going here, where I'm leading you to, there is a high electromagnetic field directly behind this child's headboard. Well,
Mm,
that was where his head was, right? As he would
hmm.
rest, he would sleep there, and he would have these crazy lucid dreams. And he
Wow.
stopped playing in his room. Again, we do have a level of survivorship within us. We want to live,
Yeah.
right? So
And we want to be
our
well.
subconscious, our conscious get together and they protect us. Our higher self protects us.
Protector
And so,
guides we've talked about, or maybe
yes,
we haven't,
absolutely.
but
And so for a while, he was also going to his mom's room to sleep with her because
yep.
he couldn't handle the dreams. And it was so puzzling to her why he slept so well. And she made the assumption it was because, by mama. When that was part of it, I'm sure. But we recognized this child was in a room that he was getting actual hallucinations in. It was messing with his ability to cognitively function, and we see that in high levels. So if you
Yep.
have that panel, electrical panel in particular, is what we saw in a bedroom, then make sure your bed is on the opposite side of that room if you have to have a bedroom there, because we
Yeah.
recognize the closer you are to it, the more apt you are to have just a whole just big issue with what we are looking for, paranormal activity, when in fact it's just that you're reacting to the EMF levels being out of the ordinary.
Well,
Okay.
and scientifically, as far as our body goes, we produce 3 different centers of toroidal electromagnetic, and it's the brain,
Right.
the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and the gut.
Yep.
And the largest one obviously being the heart space, but within that is the head and the gut. So if you're compromised by this being by your head,
Yes.
the lack of clarity, the cognitive issues, sometimes I know a lot of people do this, I do this, and I've been trying to stop. One of the reasons I got tailored that stand, and I hope he uses it sometimes, but I'll be in my bed and I'll put my laptop on my chest.
Right.
Well, that's
That's
complete disruption
it
of
is.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know if it does much, but I try. If I'm like being lazy and reading, I'll put it on a little bit of like a coffee tray over me, in the hopes that at least there's some form of separation. It's not just right on me. And then on
Right.
top of that, not to go into further detail, but the gentleman with the phones and the laptops on their generative area,
Yes.
that is proving now to be destructive to the semen. So
Yes,
we do
absolutely.
recognize
It's
there's
making
some
you
real
sterile.
biology here too. We got to make sure with these electrical fields. What do you feel about the EMF clearers? Do you think that there's a lot? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, things that sound too good to be true tend to be, but I do feel like there is some validity to them, and I do feel that they are worthwhile to use them. Again,
And
my
symbols control the energy. Well, they help control your energy. So sometimes if you see it, it
yes,
might remind you, oh yeah, I'm actively cleared of EMF. And even just that belief
it's
will
the
be quite
right,
helpful to your energy. So
absolutely.
there's,
There's a benefit. Most definitely,
yeah.
there's a benefit. But exactly, is it 100% or what may it be? I'm not sure. But I want to say definitely utilize what you have to protect, really to protect those centers. We recognize that they can cause havoc. This poor child was hallucinating. He was seeing things that
Mhm.
weren't there. Now, I also wanted to say that we can create thought forms that come to life. So this poor child had basically manifested other beings in his room because of his hallucinations. So we know we've got to pay attention. We've got to be mindful of what we are surrounded by, what we are exposed to when we are doing this work. And also in what we can tell homeowners, as far as let's be very proactive about protecting yourself, protecting your family from these situations. Now, you can't move out of a house because the electrical panel is in the room, but you might want to find a way to rearrange that room so that whomever is in this room isn't facing or leaning up on this situation. So it's an
I read
example for you
something,
all.
and we might cut this, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to say this to you. Uh, I just saw this thing the other day, and it was talking about how, do you remember when we were told that lead paint is so bad
Yes.
and that the kids were eating it?
Yes.
Which again, that sounds absolutely crazy, right? Because when was the last time you just had a kid in paint? Anyway, what was interesting is lead completely blocks the EMF, and
Yes.
it would prevent your house from being able to be seen using certain sonars. So it is very curious to me, and I will read more about it, but I could see why people would not want you to have that if it was effective. And I know that right now there's a huge market for Faraday bags.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's an interesting, you're seeing this copper stuff come back. You're seeing people investigate lead paint. Like,
Yes.
we are responding to this EMF thing. We are responding to 5G.
Yes, we
Like,
are.
you do see it. And I'm happy. Like, I saw, I love this. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know if I'm going to do anything about it, but the copper pyramidic structures,
Oh,
they
yes,
preserve
absolutely. We have one
fruit.
at the center in Richardson.
But I think that's so interesting because, like, I don't, if last year, if you said there was something to that, I'd be like, okay, maybe, sure.
Hmm.
And now people are doing real live stream months at a time,
Yes.
watching these structures, a grapefruit outside of it, a grapefruit inside of it. I'm like, there's something here. I don't
There's
know
something
what.
there. That's exactly
Woo!
right.
The world keeps getting more magical the more they keep trying to make it less so.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Exactly.
I kind of like that. I think that's cool.
Well,
There is hope.
we're curious souls too. And we are always looking for answers. We're always looking for innovations. We're always looking to make things either better or to disprove what's out there. So, we're a thinking being by nature. And well, not everyone. I've run into a few I don't know about. I'm not sure they're even in there anymore.
But people need more
The
electromagnetic
body.
activity up here.
Right, exactly. But no, and being realistic, you're right. There's a lot more investigation. There's a lot more thought that is applied to, what we have been originally told. This is the way it is, and simply that, nothing else. We're seeing that there are a lot of other benefits. Copper, especially copper. I recommend copper to some of my clients. With health issues, I'm like, get yourself a nice copper bracelet. Come on into the center that my office is in, and sit in the pyramid and get your groove on. And I tease them, just get your groove on, get yourself situated. I don't present it as, oh, this is a scary thing that might alter your DNA and you'll end up, drooling by the mouth by the third session. I
Right.
simply, because I don't believe that to be the case. If I did, I wouldn't sit in
No.
it myself. Maybe
Of
that's why I've been
course.
drooling lately. Oh, God. But
I didn't know you guys did. I forgot actually that you guys
yes,
have
we
that.
do. And it's a valuable tool. And not everyone will feel the effects because they'll be blocked off to a point where they're just not receptive to it. But there'll be others. We have several people that come in just to sit in the pyramid.
Well, I have no reason to back this up because I've never been inside of one of them, but this is a feeling. I think it's true. I believe that a lot of the toppers that are on large buildings,
Hmm.
I believe that those are probably the most expensive penthouses that you can live in, and that it is built into the structure already.
Yes.
And so I've always wondered what's up in there. I believe that there are places that people live
Oh, absolutely.
for
And that's
wellness
a good point.
to stay
You know,
young.
as we say on every episode, we lead with love and wisdom. I'm the love. She's the wisdom. So here I am drooling at the mouth, loving all of you. You're wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, but it's like I think some other people are knowing what's up with these energetic
Yes,
manipulations. But
absolutely.
all that to say, back to our ADD, my ADD this morning, um,
That's
but back
okay.
to
We're good.
one of because I do think this is so important about what you do, and we'll kind
Hmm.
of dive into this. Man, it scares me, but I do love the world of the paranormal, especially because because of proximity to you, I've experienced enough of it personally before I hadn't. I just was gifted in this one way, could do this one thing,
Hmm.
never really saw this other side. So when there's protocols, right, about speaking with and kind of asking for activity to represent itself in these settings. And obviously, we feel strongly about things like Ouija boards. We feel strongly about certain ways to do it
Yes,
that are courting chaos and courting a little bit more of a dangerous way. So,
absolutely.
will you run us through sort of the very, very high do's and the very high do nots when you feel, say, you're just in your own home and you're like, I think there's activity. I can't afford an EMF strip. I don't have an SLS camera. What do I do now? How can
Well,
I?
mhm. And those are really good questions, Sterling, and I'll address them, each of them, hopefully. First and foremost, if you have activity in your home, I'm going to stress to you that I wouldn't recommend you run out and get every available EMF, EVP, SLS camera there is, because quite honestly, you live there, right? And there's a part of you that, one, you're not going to be, you're not going to be open-minded about it, and two, you're the one that has to close your eyes at night. And you're
Yep.
going to get scared beyond belief probably when you realize energy is energy. We live in a train station, basically. There's coming and goings all day long, every moment of every hour. Spirit is spirit. Spirit lives amongst us. So we recognize that we're going to have activity, even if we don't have activity that the cameras pick up. You know, I mean, your loved ones are like, oh, great, there's the paranormal group. Okay, let's go. We'll go meet in the park. Let's chat for a while back there. You know, so we
Someone's like, "Hey,
recognize.
uncle, throw him a bone. Slam that
Yeah,
cabinet."
exactly.
They're
That's
just
right.
like, "Fine,
Go do a
fam."
few woos
Yeah.
so they get something before we head out of town. But
I love it.
but I will tell you that the first question I ask, especially when someone says that they have an uptick of energy, because then they usually follow it with I'm afraid of it, or I'm scared, or I don't know what to think, and you know, many different emotions, of course. But the first thing I ask them is, okay, what have you done to potentially create some of this?
Mhm.
And what that means is, have you made a spirit board? Are you playing with a Ouija board? Now, again, I talk to the dead. Well, not really dead; they're spirits. They're still much alive. But I talk to the other side of the veil for living. So no judgment here, folks. Okay, I know you want to talk to your loved ones, but do it in a safe manner. Don't create this portal. I am very much against Ouija boards, and that's just a straightforward.
Yep.
Here I am. If you have a Ouija board, you can disagree all you want. Send all your hate mails directly to Sterling. Don't leave me out of the picture. Just kidding, Sterling.
No, no,
but,
no.
but I recognize that those that are playing with the Ouija board, it is not a game. I'm sorry. You may get it from the toy store, and that's just fine and dandy. And I may eventually get sued by the makers of the board. And I'm not even going to tell you the makers of the board. And so we recognize the Ouija boards are portals. And I have debates with people, and we'll call them debates for all purposes here, with people that are like, well, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, you can orchestrate the energy. It doesn't have to be all negative. I'm like, really? Okay, well, let's try that. And I've had people that are like, oh, who's with me? And they get all excited because names are being spelled out, and they're thrilled, and all of a sudden now they're not sleeping well. And all
Yep.
of a sudden now they feel their house is haunted. And all of a sudden now they're sick to their stomach. And
And
all
all
of a
of a sudden
sudden
now they
now
keep thinking about it.
they
They
keep
can't wait to
thinking
get
about it.
home from work to mess
Yes,
with it.
to mess with it, exactly. They start becoming really taken in by the Ouija board. And I speak from experience. I will tell you, I played with the Ouija board when I was younger, and I had some very unsettling experiences. And I have, over the years, many years, I've come to understand that I'm not the only one with these very unsettling experiences. You
Is there
know,
one that you feel comfortable sharing?
well,
I didn't
I,
know you
I,
ever did anything with
oh,
a
I
Ouija board.
did. Well, the first
Was
time
it with your family or no?
no, that was actually with the first we used to have a small business, a small grocery store. So, while I was supposed to be working diligently and dusting the shelves, I was in the bathroom area because you had to go where, you could turn the light off, no windows. And I
Mm.
would sit with a friend of mine who lived down the street, and we would have a Ouija board, and, we'd get our groove on, and we'd start, saying, oh, who's in the store with us? And a couple times it was very accurate. It would say the names of the people, and we'd go and look, and it'd be, wow, it's correct,
What
it's
would I
right.
Brutus do while you're doing this?
Well, again, back back in those days, it was more of, this is what you want. I can't help you. And I actually had we called them guardian angels back then before we understood more about guides and the names of all the ones that we work with. And they're still guardian angels, just an older term. And so I would hear, I can't help you, free will.
Mm.
So, okay, well, that's a little bit concerning, except when you're 10 or 12, you're like, yeah, that's right, nobody can. You're thinking, I'm
Right,
going to do this
right.
because
Dang.
I'm all full of myself. And so what we recognized, it gained our trust because it was accurate.
Yep.
And because it was accurate, we started relying on it. Well, we took it home. And we tried it again in the room, and I said, I think I'm tired of playing with the Ouija board. And I happened to say it right while we were, finishing up with the question. And the little pension or whatever they call that just literally slid all the way to no. And I thought, whoa, we just kind of looked at each other, my friend and I, and she was going to
No
spend the
one was
night.
touching it?
What's that?
No one was touching it?
No. Mm-mm. And I looked at her and she looked at me, and we thought, oh, this is very weird.
Suddenly you
And
start feeling
so
like maybe you don't have the control.
exactly. And then we put our fingers on it because, we're still kids and we're still curious. And it said, don't you put me away. And we thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Why? Curiosity is going to get us here. Why? You'll see. Okay. So we'll see. Okay. And
But I
just
already
as,
feel from you right now, and you always had this warrior thing in you where it's like I don't know that it ever occurred to you in that moment that you were in a place of real concern. Because at some level, because of your old soul nature, you're
yes.
like, I've done this 1,000 times. I'm going to put you away. I want to figure out where this is going to go, but no matter what, you're going to get put away.
Well, exactly.
Is that feel from you? Not
Well,
everyone would have that.
and again, I having a lot of reasons to have to stay strong growing up. And so you're right. It is more of that, okay, I'm not going to let this just, tell me what to do. I'm not going to start shivering in my shoes. I'm going to figure out more about it. So that to me was a bit of a threat.
What
And
was she
just,
like? Was she
what's that?
submissive? What was she like? Was she
She was
submissive? Did
scared.
she? Yeah.
And I said, Joanne, don't be scared. We've got this. And I'll never forget it.
Joanne's
And
listening, like, I forgot all about this.
yeah, I know. I haven't talked to Joanne since I was, well, a lot younger than I am now. And so, and so it said, well, you wait and see, watch. So we looked at each other and the lights went out. The power went out. And we thought, oh, this is weird. And I had a flashlight in the room because, I lived in the country. And when the power goes out in the country, it's pitch dark because there's no street lamps. Okay. And so I always kept a flashlight there. So I took the flashlight out and now I'm really thinking this is weird. And and we just put, again, curiosity, and the board basically said, see, I told you. And then they said, well, please turn the lights on. The lights came back on. Well, coincidence? Maybe so. Okay. Except then the other thing, and remember, we're young children. We're in the room. It's dark. It's probably 8:30 at night. Our business is in the, kind of up the field from where we lived. You've seen it. And it's not 10 yet. So its door is still open. My sister runs to the house and she comes in the door. She said, the phones are out. The phones are out.
This is like a scary movie. Straight up.
And yes. And again, we
my
were like,
gosh.
oh gosh. And we put our hands up and it said, told you so. And so it got a little strange. So I don't like stuff like that. So I said, okay, fine. I'm putting you away. And I wasn't waiting for an answer. I wasn't going to taunt it. I wasn't going to do anything. We had my closet was a metal, big, tall box. For those of you that grew up a long time ago, like I did, it was just like a big footlocker, and it was metal. And I put it at the bottom of it. And that night was the roughest night I think I've ever had as a child. And trust me, there were many of them. That was a really rough night because the side of the cabinet kept banging, like something was hitting this metal and just banging on it. And the power stayed on, but we felt as if something was with us, and we kept waking up. And she was more frightened, so I know that some of it might have just gotten under her skin and in her head, and so she was kind of this lucid dreaming state of fear. But I was more like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
And so I recognized that. And I started, even at that age, I started asking around to people that had played with it and people that had one. And so I got a lot of feedback. My sister, one of them, we're a bit estranged now, different ideologies, but she had played with a Ouija board.
Seems so lovely.
Yeah, exactly. And so she had played with it when she was in another state and doing her own thing and growing up, and it said, I'm going to hurt you. And she said, you can't hurt me. And so she put it away, and she was walking down the sidewalk. She had to get to work. And for whatever reason, she wasn't paying attention, and she walked right into one of the signs that is one of the parking signs that are lower. And she split her head open.
Damn.
And said needed stitches. So that was like within, hours of this that she did that. And so is that all coincidental? Well, I don't know. I'm not even going to answer you if you ask me that. Could it be? Sure, it could be. But, now we not rewind, but we fast forward and we look at all the clients and all the people that have come to me and come to you. And I could tell you, those that seem the most distraught have a Ouija board in their life. And I have felt it. I have been in houses that I know it's there. And I will say to them, you have a Ouija board. And they'll say, I said, be honest with me. because I already asked them, do you have a Ouija board? Because if you do, I want it off the premises. If I'm going to work in your place to help you, then don't be counterproductive to me.
100%. It's not even about the money.
No,
It's
it's
not even
not.
like it's literally like if I'm going to take my day,
Yes,
because you have to be physically when you do the clearings, you do it's more than a call, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
and you're also participating in essentially what could be considered spiritual warfare if you
Absolutely.
were there to clear living or non-living spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly. And I
and
can't
so
believe
that's a
what you
lot to
keep
ask.
bringing in. You know, if you've
With
got
that,
a negative vibrational energy that comes from a portal of a Ouija board, that's free will. You're bringing it in. You're saying, "Come on in." It's like inviting in
mirrors,
the vampires. If that's what you want, go have at it. But while I'm in attendance, don't do that. So, really,
there
what
was
was
that
taken?
male individual in your class a while ago, a year ago or 2 years ago, where he got very vocal about not wanting mirrors removed.
Yes,
And that was
yes,
so interesting because nobody asked that. And
no,
it felt there
no,
we were acknowledging that mirrors in long corridor hallways are not always great and they have a tendency to focalize, that's not a word, focus
I love it.
energy and then
Yes,
maybe turns into a portal. So the suggestion just being maybe clear or move that, and
right.
it almost felt feral. He was very not
Very
willing to do
upset by
that.
that. That's exactly
And
right.
I believe there were kids in the home, so that was
There were kids
interesting.
in the home. And it was very interesting because we would think, and again, we're not passing judgment, but if you
No.
have children in the home and you're talking about having some bad energy in your home, and I ask you about, what's going on, and you become feral over the fact that you have mirrors that you're not taking down, I have a suspicion, and I did then, that subconsciously you already know where it's coming from. Now, along with that, now I don't want everyone in the audience to think, oh gosh, I'm asking you all to take your mirrors down. I use them too. I look at one every morning when I wake up and I stare right into it. I use mirrors. I use small mirrors in my scrying classes. So I recognize the value of mirrors. And do they open up portals? Sometimes they do. If you set the intention that it's a good portal and that you're doing this because you're doing spiritual work, your team is protecting you, you're guided, you're making progress in a good positive way. Have at it. Have at it. Mirrors. I never use full on mirrors. I don't use head to toe mirrors. I feel like they're just a conduit of energy. But I'm still in the modern day world where we have mirrors. But we
Well,
recognize they need to be cleared. And how do you
yeah.
clear a mirror? You need to get yourself some vinegar and water and you wipe it down.
As I will say for because of after these classes, I mean, after I really only started doing this until
Mhm.
when I got into the paranormal stuff. So when I Windex them,
Yes.
typically what I'll do is I'll put my hand somewhere
Hmm.
on it. So it's my full
Yes.
handprint. And to
Right.
me, I'm like, so the whole thing just got cleaned, and yet
Yes.
I'm putting my own grimy hand because I recognize this is my mirror. Come on,
It's your mirror, and that's
don't mess
perfectly
around.
fine.
You know what I mean? And some like I've seen you clear them with holy water in the
Yep.
cross.
Mhm.
It's not.
That's right.
It's a dominion aspect. It's
Mhm.
not, and it's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to.
No.
But I would like to say because I think this is an amazing topic as well. Um, this is my belief system. The reason that reflective surfaces hold that ability to be a portal,
Hmm.
whether it's a TV screen that you've got in front of your bed, and again,
Yes.
we all have that, but it has a reflective element.
Yes.
So we recognize that when the perception of a physical form can be seen,
Right.
so in a mirror, that is still a space, then there can be energy, right?
Absolutely.
So when people are like, well, why? I get asked all the time about why would water be a portal? It's the reflective nature.
It's a
It's that
reflective
you can
nature.
perceive
Yes.
matter
Yes.
in a spot where normally there really shouldn't be
Right.
because it is a flat surface. There shouldn't be anything in there. Well, now you have a metaphysical space.
Exactly. And you're
So
right. That's well stated. It is a reflective surface, and that's why we use them in scrying.
mhm,
Scrying is connecting to the other side through the use of, again, a reflective surface, whether it be a bowl of water or glass, a mirror, whether it be a very shiny crystal. We recognize that's a good conduit, a good way of connecting.
mirrors used to be called looking glasses, right?
That's exactly right, for a reason.
And
You
in
know,
most like Lord of the Rings and most lore, there's the water, and I believe it's also, in the traditional moon card with the tarot,
Yes.
it's overlook. The
Overlook the
star
water.
card is
Mhm.
water. It's always
Mhm.
peering into the metaphysical. It's always
Yes.
using a reflective aspect. Water is very powerful too because it has a natural spiritual connection. But
Absolutely. And I agree with that. Um, one thing I'd like to say also, it's kind of funny. I find this humorous. She didn't find it humorous, the client that came to me. Well, she had asked me about Ouija boards at once upon a time, and just, she's a business owner. She's just a great gal, lots of intelligence, just trying to find her own way. And she wanted to gain more understanding of what we do. And so we had talked about Ouija boards, and I convinced her that it was time for her to dismantle hers and get rid of it because she had started having a lot of sleepless nights. She felt that she was being awakened in the middle of the night. Her husband was fed up with it because he was getting up looking for the intruders, when there were not any, not in the physical sense. And so she recognized, yes, okay, well, let's get rid of this. Well, she also had a pendulum, and I have no problems with pendulums at all. I mean, if you're going to have one, clear it. It needs to be cleared. However you clear it, doesn't matter to me. But you should clear it every day that you use it, because again, it is a connection. Well, she went one step further with this, which I thought was so funny, because she came to see me. She reached out to me and she said, Terri, I've done what you've asked. I got rid of the board and everything was fine for a while, but now I just feel like everything is back. And I
she
said,
misses it.
describe it. Tell me what you're doing. What's going on? She said, well, it's the same as if I had the board out. So I'm not sure it was the board at all. And I'm feeling cranky. I'm fighting with my husband. I'm not eating well. I feel depressed and angry. I'm not even opening my business and things are getting worse. Okay, come on in. So let's talk. So I said, I want you to bring in with you any tool that you're using so I could see what you're doing. So I could figure you out, because I didn't feel that she was being quite straight with me
She
on
never
this.
got rid of the board.
Well, no, she did get rid of the board, but she
Oh.
replaced it.
Well,
She
to
made
me,
her own board.
if you put on a white piece of paper yes and no, and you have a pendulum, that's a Ouija board.
That's a Ouija board, but she went a step further.
In the
She put the
making, I
alphabet.
guess.
She put the
What? She did what?
She put the alphabet. She took 2 pieces of 8x11 paper and she taped them on the underside and put an alphabet and a yes and no and used her pendulum.
Man, that is
So
right.
she created her own board. And again, I know I have listeners and viewers. We both know this to be true, that there are people that use it all the time. We see it everywhere. Use your pendulum, and this is your yes, this is your no, this is your maybe, and go ahead with that. Have a ball with it as long as you clear it. But if you start putting the alphabet out there and you're spelling out, the verbiage, you've created a bit of a portal again. It's the same premise as what you did with the Ouija board. The only thing is, your ability to find the letters is done differently. You're using a pendulum. And so what I said to her was, first I said, are you going to allow me to help you? And she said, yes. She says, something has to change right now. I said, okay, well, let's clear your pendulum. Let's go in the other room. We're going to do it a few different ways. No, it's not under moonlight. We can't get there. It's the middle of the day. We're going to clear it with intention. And I showed her how to have an intention. She could hold it close to her heart. After we cleared it a little bit, I didn't want her to go and have
Right.
no more issues. So we did a few different clearing techniques that we have. And I said, okay, now it's clear. And I want you to put that in your purse. And now we're going to go get to the heart of this. And so we walked back into my room, my office in Richardson, and I said, okay, this board that you just pulled out of your purse, I need it. She said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm going to tear it up. I said, in fact, I'm going to tear it up and I'm going to keep it. How's that? And she got hostile.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally said to her, who am I working with right now? And why does this matter to you? Why is this piece of paper that I'm going to tear up? And it wasn't like she had done all the graphic design on it. It wasn't like, calligraphy of A to Z.
I can feel the panic.
Yes. It was like, what are you doing? That's mine. I said, do you want me to help you? She said, well, not if you're going to destroy my property.
It's almost like an addiction.
Exactly. I said, well, if you want to be helped, you have to get rid of this. I said, we cleared your pendulum long enough for you to use it again, probably on the wrong method, in the wrong way. And she said, are you kidding me? I said, trust me on this one. If I'm wrong, I'll draw you another one. I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to do that, but I'll go out on a limb.
What is it's in the purse right now, right? Like she hasn't
The
even pulled it
pendulum's
out
in the
yet.
purse.
But the paper, is it
on
out
the
of the purse
table.
yet?
It's on the table.
What is when you look at it and when you feel it, what does that paper feel like?
It feels like a hole, like a big hole, like if you could envision falling into a hole, leaning over and falling into it.
Does it seem like it would be heavy or not heavy, or
it felt very
if you were
heavy to
pick
me.
it up? It's okay. I was
It
curious.
felt very heavy to me. It didn't want me to tear it
Wow.
up.
Of course.
And she didn't want me to tear it up. So what had happened was, with her emotions and her weakness at the time, she basically had intensified another portal. She had created something to fall into. And
the
so
portal
she
wanted
did.
to be made as well, so it wanted to return.
Right.
So
it didn't want me ripping it up.
Agendas.
Exactly. The board doesn't care if it's metal, not metal, but board with shiny surface. It just wants to be heard. So what she did is she recreated the board. And I did take it from her. And I did tear it up. And she cried. And I threw it in the trash in the other room, in which I later removed and put it in the dumpster down in the alleyway of the business. She cried for a moment. And I said, are you crying because you're missing part of you? And she didn't answer me because she was still a little angry with me. So we talked for probably another 30 minutes, and I could feel her energy shift. And then we took her pendulum out again, and we cleared it once more.
So there was nowhere for that energy to trap itself.
And yes, and she got her wits about her, and she cleared it herself. And I talked to her to this day. This was a while back. I talked to her this day, and she doesn't do that anymore. She's very intuitive. She uses her pendulum. She gets information. That's perfectly fine. But she keeps an awareness that the dark side is available if you let it. There is a balance in our life, whether we care to believe that or not. There is a yes and a no, and there's a yin and a yang, and there is a dark and a light. And so you're welcome to play with it if you want to. That's your business. But don't come to me and say, oh my God, my life fell apart. I'm having all these issues, if you're not willing to address the fact that you are playing with Ouija board.
Well, and it seems important to also make a very distinct clarity with there are, to use your word specifically, living spirit, which sort of speaks to, and these are energies that were not incarnated physically that you and I would have known in life.
Right.
And so really those can be, if we want to go into a pretty clear-cut biblical way to go about it, and that really classifies the good and the bad of the non-incarnated souls, angels and demons, if we want to become pretty clear-cut, right?
Absolutely.
So we also recognize that the loved ones that are non-living spirit, right, at this point, they're going to incarnate, they were flesh and blood.
Right.
They don't aggregate around. I've always gotten the feeling that they do not care to use that as a way to connect.
No.
Anyway,
no.
The ones that were incarnate that use them have been physically not crossed over for a long time. So they're a little bit more deviant sometimes. And then where there is deviancy, surely the dark too will notice an opportunity. So you're not, if you're like if you're bereaved and you're like, I need to talk to my dad, I need to. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the Ouija boards and the energies that are pretty drawn to them, those energies will actually scare away your father energy, or the ones that are just normal souls that are souls that would want to come and talk, but now they can't because you've invited so much more than what they're willing to deal with.
Yes, and they will leave. And that's even the guy. Right. I didn't know a thing, at that age, I didn't know a thing about free will. In my age, my timeline, we didn't have internet. And I didn't even watch TV.
And you hadn't had much free will.
No, well, no, exactly. There was no free will. I didn't know what it was for a long time. But to hear that, I can't help you get off the board. I can't help you. It's free will.
Yep.
Well, I was like, okay, who's free and who's will? What's going on here? I didn't know who this was. But it made sense when I looked at it, and I grew up and started evolving with energy. And I realized, yes, I am asking for this. I'm asking
Dang.
for connection.
Oh my God. So they're basically saying that's crazy because we do think that in the guide systems and stuff, we're always like, oh, well, they'll protect us. But that is true up to the point that you knock on the door.
Exactly.
Because then they're like, we
Right.
our power is gone.
Our power is gone. And it's
Now,
not
if you're
that,
facing this way and someone's coming out, then the guides can interface and work on behalf in spirit. That's what they're
yes,
here for.
that's
But
right.
if you face that way and walk, then they're stuck with you on the ride.
Right. And
Can
that's
they be
true.
harmed?
What's that?
This is a random. I've never thought this before. In the circumstance that you barrel forward ahead,
Mm-hmm.
you get yourself into some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that the guides can be casualties in that?
I don't believe that they can be casualties.
Okay.
And I do believe on some level they do intervene. I don't feel that they do it as a way to control, because they also follow, cosmic rules and, energetic ruling with free will. But I know that there were times, and I did play with this board for a while, prior to bringing it home, because it was pretty intriguing. What's in
Of
someone's pocket,
course.
and all of a sudden you would find out, and it would be correct. So it was very intriguing.
Ooh,
The
of
board wanted
course.
you
And it's
to enjoy
magic.
it. It's magic, right? To a child, it's magic. But what I also noticed that on several occasions when it started getting even darker, that and I can't remember, is it the pendant? I can't remember what that's called. The little mover doer. It's going to come
Yeah.
back to me in a minute.
It's like the shuffle.
It's right. It's the thing you
I
put
know.
your fingers
Yeah.
on. And I can't believe I can't remember it. Oh my gosh. And I do
Probably
remember.
good.
Yeah, but it'll come back to me after you're all off the podcast, and you're thinking, boy, I can't believe she doesn't know that. I do
can't
know
think
it.
of it
It's
either.
just gone. But what would happen is it would immediately just very, very forcefully exit the board. So it would go to a different direction, where I would always think, okay, what is this about? Oh, this feels dark. What is this? And it would go basically goodbye. So I did see some intervention there with the goodbye.
Oh, that it felt from your side almost.
Yes. So my guides, even though they couldn't stop the communication, they could show me by saying goodbye, exit.
It would just make it harder. You'd
Like
have
a
to choose
warning.
again.
Yes. I felt that they were warning me.
Of course.
And so, again, I have plenty of people, I'm sure, that play with Ouija boards all the time. I know I hear it in my classes that, if I ask how many people play with Ouija boards, I'm going to have someone raise their hand. They always do. And I say, that's fine and dandy. If you are happy with it, you continue to enjoy it. Do yourself a favor. Don't expose your children to it. Do them a favor as well. And if it seems like you're having more bad days than good days, you might want to reevaluate it. Because it's a portal, and not all portals are bad. Please understand, not all portals are bad.
But it wears it. But see, even we were talking about this over dinner or over breakfast the other day, about how certain things, because we co-create with other people, we can't exist in isolation.
Right.
So everyone's opinions
That's
go
exactly
into
true.
these energies.
Right.
So it's like if you had some, Catholic board that was always known to be of God, always known to be a conduit of angels. In the collective community, we saw it that way. It would be much more challenging for that to be a tool of the negative. It still could be. But now you've got this thing that they've movies. There's a movie just called Ouija.
Yes.
They're in every single horror movie show.
Yes.
So it's like you see that word, whether you believe in any of this or not, and you assume there could be trouble.
Right.
And that's sometimes even the hope. People seek them because they hope that it gets a little bit dicey. So they're sought for a reason that
People
they
get
have
bored.
a connotation of the dark.
I'm sure that there was an
call a spade a spade.
Right. I'm sure there was an uptick of the sales of these boards when people were in lockdown, because there were a lot of lonely souls out there. And I feel like that I thought about this, and I almost put just messages on my Facebook, but I ended up not, for whatever reason, saying, listen, don't use this as an excuse to order online a Ouija board so you have company, because you might be getting the company that you're not expecting. So we do see that people will use them for many, many reasons: to gain access, information, to talk to the spirit world in an unhealthy way, and to also, some people like to be on the edge, living on the edge, and wanting to see if there is such thing as possession, if there is such things as attachments. And so there are a lot of people out there that I hear it all the time, especially and I'm not going to say it's just the young that say this, but oh, I could handle it. No one's going to take me over. And then all of a sudden they're more depressed. They don't have a job anymore. They've lost their job and now they're sleeping 18 hours a day. They're angry. They're forceful.
Yeah,
They're
it
pulling
doesn't
away.
come in the form of a fully fleshed out demon
No,
saying, "Hello, I'd like to come hang out with you."
no,
It suddenly you're pissed at your wife all the time. Suddenly
exactly.
you're like, they go for the sleep. They go for the domain that they easily can disrupt. So
Yes.
it's, I mean, I think, knock on wood, but like, it seems the moment that there is a grip, it's a pretty quick cascade of wellness.
It is, and I do see that, and I've seen that in some of the hauntings that I've dealt with. There's many different types of hauntings. We could go through every one, and we could do a podcast on each different type. But we'll give you an overview, bits and pieces. But there's so many different types of hauntings. But we recognize the ones that we have the most issue with, the ones that are harder to clear, or those that people don't want us to clear, tend to be the ones with the Ouija board. And so if we have lower vibrational energy, we always want to ask those questions first, save ourselves the trouble. I mean, I'm not going to go and clear and, do an investigation in a room where on the top shelf is a Ouija board. I'm just not going to do that because I look at it from the confidence of experience here that if it's there, my work might be all for naught. So I just would say,
Why would you even begin?
need to do something. You need to get rid of this, at least for now.
What is your opinion on that dance when you see it? So I do want to bring this up because it was so wild. But you had a client where, I can't remember exactly all the details about what happened, but before you knew it, her house was really active out of nowhere. And I'm speaking about the person who they woke up in sort of a haze and realized that they were taking down the Easter decorations that they had just spent so much time putting up.
Yes, absolutely.
So that fogginess, that influence of whatever was around, and the TVs were breaking.
Yes.
And so did we ever know? You shared with me later that the energy just it became weaker. Something happened and it just...
The energy did become weaker, and we recognized in that situation, we never could prove or disprove whether there was a Ouija board involved or on any level at that point. We had a situation, a scenario where a really loving mom, I mean, just a great lady. She has an adult son who lives in a small house in the backyard and lives on the property. And we recognize
And is it
that
remote?
well, in
Do
a
they have
remote
lot of
area.
neighbors or no? Okay.
What's that? Yep.
I was saying, was it within a neighborhood like thing, or
No, it's a
I feel like
remote
it has a lot
area
of
in the
land.
country.
Okay.
So a large parcel of land. They'd been there for a long time. Unfortunately, her son was heavy into drugs.
Mm.
And so because of that, there was some, again, a little bit negative energy. Whoa, hello there, lovely. Remember, the light is good. And
Cool.
so that
That's
was
cool.
a burst of light.
That's not me.
And it's all good. If your screen goes dark, I'm going to hang up.
We'll know what happened.
So,
I just call you. I'm
call
just
me.
sobbing. Terri! No, go ahead.
I'll say, do you have a Ouija board in the house?
No, God, no. You know I don't. You know I don't.
No,
I'm not the one.
I'd go over there, knock on your door, and take it from you.
Oh yeah, no, I would never.
But what
Come
we
get, just come get me if I even something's very amiss if I've gone that far.
And it's interesting. My son in charge of Night Eye, he is an extensive researcher when it comes to demonology and the study of darkness, study of light, and I mean, I'm super proud of him, but super jealous at the same time, and because it's just way above my pay grade. And he is very straightforward about get rid of the Ouija boards too. So when we going back to this woman, and
so funny too, because he sometimes courts chaos, and for him to say no,
exactly
good.
That is definitely indicative of hey, we've got something here.
How bad it is. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, because he's not shy about anything.
No. And what's interesting, going back to the woman, it was a very chaotic situation. She had a loss. Her brother had passed not quite a year before this happened. But her brother, heavily into drugs, but a great guy. I actually had met him in person. And tried to kind of help him. I knew he was going to cross pretty soon, so I worked with him a little bit. So he
You
was
knew
kind of on her
because he had a
team.
natural ending?
It did, but it was unfortunate because there was a lot of drugs that had
Okay.
created a lot of unhealthiness in the body.
Got it. But
And
it was not
so,
suicidality.
right.
Okay, just checking.
Yep. And he was living with her when he passed. And so I met with him. He was fine. There was no issues. And he had passed again several months before the activities. Well, her son, who lived on the premises in again, a small cabin, kind of, little bit of like a guest home in the back of her property line. She let him live there, but he was heavily into drugs. And he had a lot of friends that were heavily into drugs. And there were times that she would go to work and she'd come home and they would be leaving the inside of her house. And she would tell her son, no, you cannot have any of your friends in my home, especially when I'm not here. I don't trust them. I don't like them. And everyone, again, they all have the same problem. They were all, heavily into drug use. So long story
Which we
short,
know, anything, just real quick so the audience knows, we recognize that anything that creates a separation of your cognitive ability to be present,
yes,
whether that is drugs,
yes,
alcohol,
absolutely.
abuse, to where you dissociate out of yourself, that is all hosting
Yes.
opportunities for darker energies, because if you step out, they can step in.
They can step
So
in. That's exactly
she
right.
mentions the drug thing to say, anytime you have severe addiction or aggregates of groups of people,
Yes.
you can pretty much guarantee that somewhere in their energy or around them, there's probably at least one that is
Yes.
sharing a conduit relationship with something negative.
Oh, absolutely. So, again, we can speculate that they probably, based on their addictions, were creating a bit of chaos. We also know that that there was conversation from the mother that was an awareness that she was intuitive. So it probably spurred on a lot of conversation about the paranormal, the darkness, et cetera, et
She's
cetera.
intuitive?
Yes. And so this was out of nowhere. She came home from work one day and she started feeling and sensing things in the house. And she reached out to me and she said, is my brother here, the one that had passed? And I said, well, let me check, because he always taps. He taps, and that was his
And you
nervous
said
habit.
no, he wasn't there, right?
He wasn't there.
Because he left. There was
And
something
so
else.
I said, it's not your brother. I don't hear him. I don't sense him. I said, so what's going on? She said, everything. There's loud bangs and knocks and things are just going crazy in my house. She said, what's going on? I said, okay, well, this is what we need to do. We need to make sure the son isn't present, make sure he's not in the home. She said, he's not. He's over with one of his friends doing something. I said, great. Okay. Give me more feedback. What exactly is happening? Tell me about the bangs, the big bangs and the sounds. And they were coming from her bedroom and the living room, and they were happening all around her. So she, again, she is of the faith. She's a Christian and she had holy water. I said, let's go ahead and at least, because this is something you believe in, just get it out. And you want to just kind of splash in the room and just say, go. Just say anything negative, go. And so next thing, things were falling off the shelves. It was a full-on attack. And she's
Because it was
freaking out
mad.
because
It was
yeah,
responding to.
right. She has no idea of this.
Oh my
She takes all of
gosh.
this with a grain of salt, in the sense that she knows darkness exists, but she keeps her intuition has helped her to navigate through her family dynamics,
So she's not even sure that she believes any of this.
because it's so over the top.
Right. And yet still she has to call someone because the knocks are there
The knocks
regardless
are
of
there. It's real. Things are
Dang.
falling off
Oh.
the shelf. Then her TV
Yeah.
basically explodes. It's just gone. It just poof. And so a lot of commotion in her home.
And people think that that's a force thing, but really, my belief, I mean, it could be, but more than anything, these electronic things that can get supercharged, that he would have targeted it from the inside, and it would have.
Right. And
So when people wonder, like, why the knocking, where do they
yes.
get the energy to manipulate certain things? Part of it, and some of the more destructive stuff, it's very hard for a non-physical thing to physically abuse something physical.
That's
So
true.
they go electrical if they can.
That's right. And that's exactly it. But this energy behaved like a poltergeist. It was kind of the equivalent of Tasmanian devil just opened the front door and it was making its way around her house, because it was so chaotic. And so we calmed it down that day, and it happened again the
It was
next day.
sentient or no?
What's that?
Was it sentient or was it just the nature of chaos?
That's still up for grabs. I'm not sure. I,
Because
I
I
feel it
felt
may be the nature of chaos, but something was very
it got very knowing with us.
right. It got worse. The next day it was even louder, and it was knocking things off her bookshelves. It was knocking things off the countertops in front of her.
Mm-mm.
She was getting freaked out. She was like, "I can't keep doing this." She had decided that she was going to decorate. It was around Easter time. And so she was putting up decorations. And this is someone I've worked with for years, and she's never exhibited mental illness. She's never
Yeah.
exhibited anything other than she's extremely strong.
She has your trust.
Right. I mean, just this is a woman that would go to bat for anyone, strong, physically strong, mentally aware. Okay. And so she said, Terri, I'm putting up Easter decorations. I'm not going to let this, as she put, I'm not going to let this shit get to me. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to replace my TV for a while, until this is over with. And so she put up all these Easter decorations, and she said, I'll put them all over. I love Easter. It's one of my favorite holidays. I had, this and that and decorations hanging from the wall. She said, and the strangest thing, the next day, I'm walking around my house taking all my decorations down before I realized what I was doing. She said, she's funny because she goes, I just put the damn things up, and the next thing I know, I'm walking around like some kind of fool, and I'm pulling all of them down, and I'm wondering, whoa, what's happening? She said, until I realized I was the one happening. I was pulling this stuff down. She said, did something get into me? I said, well, you're exhibiting behaviors of that pattern. The fact that you are not aware, you're not cognizant that you've decided that the decorations needed to go kind of tells me something's going on. So she did come and see me, and we talked. I did not go to her place because it's quite a distance away. I do recognize that she is a powerhouse in her family. She is the right. I mean, and I don't mean to be to exhibit malice here, but she is the right where they're the wrong in a lot of ways. And we had to kind of help her to get stronger. And so we did work with her, and all of a sudden things calmed down. Now, I have to tell you, during this state of change, it was made clear that her son couldn't bring his friends in the house anymore. Okay. And we recognized that something was awry with his friends. They were very into drugs. Some of them were thieves. And so she didn't feel comfortable originally. Her intuition said, don't let him in my home. And then later on, after the exhibit, this exhibit of energy and chaos, she further agreed that something was coming into her home.
Well, that's new. So when this happened, I was still in training with you.
Mm-hmm.
We hadn't spent much time outside of training together at all, I don't believe. And so I don't believe that you ever shared with me some of the details about the friends and the involvement with that nature, because I do remember specifically saying, I just thought it was like something else. But I remember saying, no matter whatever we just dealt with, it's being actively fed.
Yes, absolutely.
So now it makes sense because it would have been those kids.
It would have been the kids.
Whatever they were doing.
Right.
Because I couldn't figure out who's doing something to embolden this energy. And now it makes sense because I didn't realize the kids were around and stuff.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And what's interesting about it, and again, I have to also say this, her son's a good kid, a very intelligent young man, but very much about addictions. And addictions were the, kind of the Jekyll and Hyde effect with him. So we recognized that there was a vibration that was being brought in the house that was, again, dismal. It was angry. It was interactively so. And so whether he was there with his friends inside or not, the activity remained. The forcefulness of the activity remained. Fortunately, after some time with his friends are still not allowed in the house. He is calm enough. I've taught her some techniques, how to clear her home. I'm clear and grounded. I was able to get that through to him, how to clear and ground every doorway, every archway until you do it by rote memory to help him not to get stuck again.
And I should be so much better than that, and I have not been.
Well, it's easy. It's easy to go about life, and just thinking, okay, well, so far so good. Don't need it now. I mean, we see it all the time with just, we're human, I I mean, how many times, and this is going in a whole different direction, but it's like working out. I used to work out faithfully and religiously. And every day I worked out, I was like, this is great. This is important. I feel great. And then all of a sudden I take a day or two off, and it's like I've never worked out a day in my life. So we do,
100%.
it's a little of that muscle memory. We do kind of get, in the rhythm of life where, things that matter don't. So we get careless sometimes. And that's what I'm driving at, is there was a bit of carelessness in energy, around her home. She wasn't vigilant on keeping her house clear.
Well, the other thing that I noticed, just to sort of give reference to the fact of caution, really, not to fear, but caution. So one thing I do remember is you had an evening. So you interfaced with this information. You recognized that there was quite a bit of powerful energy here, and then life goes on,
Right?
Because eventually the client call ends.
Right.
You said that you went home, and you and your husband never fight.
No.
And you said either that night or that following
That's
morning.
Right.
You were really angry at him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if you said anything to him, but like your rage within yourself was quite high.
Yes.
And then you had a doctor's appointment that morning, and you said you got dizzy in the doctor's office.
Yes.
Fast forward to we had class at 10.
Right. That's right, 10 a.m.
So then we're talking, and that was whenever I felt cloudy, and then I felt that I should not tell you.
Yes.
So there was this, it was definitely, and I felt it by the door.
Right.
And I'm not someone who ever feels energy in a physical form.
Right.
So that was weird. And then we just burned Palo Santo and moved on with our life. But like, thank God.
Yes.
But it was one of those things where it's like, there's a notable, that moment reminds me of humility, even within my own abilities, because I thank God for my guides, because it was a very strong feeling. It would be so rude to interrupt her. Don't interrupt her. Like, and I got more and more dizzy. I couldn't even hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where it goes for the confusion.
It does.
But I want to ask you about this, because I do think there's a difference, but maybe there's not. So the moment where something is sitting there telling me, in my energy enough, and having gotten through my energy enough to where I'm not repelled by it.
Right.
And then now to the point where there's something saying, don't tell your mentor that you're having a problem. I mean, what is the connection between that and a possession, as far as the same mindset of somebody saying, hey, take those down with the Easter decorations? Because I don't think it's the same. It's not like it was fully, it was a suggestion. It was close enough in my energy to be an active suggestion.
Right. Well,
but
we know
what is
that
the
that's
difference?
We can use some of the old terms of the past of mind control. We recognize that energy, a lower vibrational energy, can waft around. We have it all in our world. If we live in a train station, not every one of them is wonderful and sweet, right?
No.
And
right.
So when you hear, don't say anything. Don't there are many different explanations for that. It could be a sign of protection. Maybe your guide is saying it isn't the right time to open that can of worms right now. This energy is being kind of pushed towards the front door. Let it go. And so that would be one part. But the aspect of energy that is lower vibrational, that's trying to get you to listen, you've got to be
take
mindful
action
of that.
for them.
Right. Because again, it's a step-by-step process. But if I listen once, I'm likely to listen twice.
It starts to feel more like your own voice, I'm sure, at some point.
And it's just like what I say when we're doing guide work. If you hear something, you acknowledge your team. If you're trying to get to know your team better, acknowledge them. It's not that they're in the background going, I can't believe she's not talking to me. It's more of they hear you responding to them. They're more able to give you more feedback. So the same is on the other side of the world of negative energy. If you're responding to it, then it's got a foothold. So you do have to use discernment, and it's not easy. I mean, I was in a bad mood. Something was around me, and I clear and ground every doorway. So
right.
So we recognize that excuse my French, but shit happens, basically. Yep. When you're shoveling manure, some may get on your pants leg. And so that's what we were dealing with.
We also do recognize as well, because I saw this in the Discords a lot, and it started to really bother me. I've shared this to you privately. We speak about these things because we do this as part of our work.
Yes.
So the rate at which we come across these stories and have these experiences are significantly higher than the populace.
Right.
So what I think, I don't want someone to listen to our podcast and think this availability is common, because it really isn't.
No.
It's just that you're the person people call when it is happening. So you see it a lot more because you've chosen to work in the light. You've chosen to be a solution
Right.
in these situations. So I think it's, when somebody will say, oh my gosh, they listened to a podcast one time where they read about ghosts and they start to believe that this could be real. Before you know it, they think their kitchen's haunted, but they have no addiction in their life. They're really good people and they're just curious about the topics.
Right.
Well, I always say, yes, the initial curiosity might bring something into an awareness of you, or you in
Absolutely.
alignment of it. But for the most part, the negative energies are going to go where there's juice.
Yes.
They want to go where there's negative stuff happening so that they can make it worse. So you're not really, you know your own life. Ask yourself, are you a good candidate? Is there interesting stuff happening around you?
Right.
That's something of that caliber, which is very poor, would be curious about you.
Right.
And that's a big fear. Go ahead.
And that's exactly true, Sterling. You're very, very accurate with that. We also recognize there's an old-fashioned saying that we've heard, those that are older than dirt, like myself, I've heard many times. And it is, you are the company you keep. Now, what that means, if you want to translate it a little bit deeper, you are an energetic being. You associate with other energetic beings. Therefore, whatever frequency they are vibrating at, you will absorb. So it is something you have to pay attention to. If you are in a situation where you're hanging around a lot of lower vibrational energy, then there's a tendency to start having that I don't care attitude. It's a tendency to have, who cares about them? Let me get what I want. We recognize like-mindedness can find like-mindedness, or the potentiality for that person to be like-minded. Do you see? So when we see energy, we have to protect ourselves first. And what I'm driving at is what I do for a living is different than your, I don't mean you personally, but other people's experiences. It's kind of like if you work for a vet, you're going to see more dogs than the average person during the course of the day, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just happening to be coming from the front door, right? I mean, that's what you do for a living. So it's not that, oh my gosh, we spend our every day thick in the middle of all this, but that's what we do for a living. So it is something to be said about it. But if you are finding that you are having experiences, then take a self-check test. What are you creating? If all of a sudden something's happening to you, it may not necessarily be your fault, but it's probably energy that's around you. Something is there for a reason. So you have to take a responsible attitude about it. Now, I'm not saying you take a blaming attitude, but take a responsible attitude. Just like this woman did. She was like, in her perfect world, excuse my French, she was like, what the hell? I work for a living. I don't even drink, alcohol. I don't do drugs.
Right.
I take care of everybody, and here my TV's blowing up in front of me. I'm taking down my Christian, Easter decorations. What the heck is happening in my world? Well, it wasn't about her, but she had to safeguard herself against what was near her. So there is something to be said, if you go, and I don't have a thing against bikers. I'm going to put that out there right now. But if you go into a biker bar, you might have a different reaction there than if you went to church, okay? And I'm not saying good and evil. I'm simply saying the variety of life. I'm saying if you've got circumstances around you, those circumstances are going to have an effectiveness on some level of the energy it draws to you. So
absolutely,
and that's. Go ahead.
There was a couple of years ago, I had an ex that was dabbling in some stuff that he shouldn't have been, and I was thinking about it a lot, and I didn't know if I was going to tell you about it. It was so weird, and I got this message, and I think it's still true. It's the only time I've ever gotten this message. Never read it anywhere. They list it out. I feel that the caveat to sort of the responsibility element with these is, of course, location.
Right.
For instance, if you move into a home and you've not done anything, but something horrible happened there, that's going to mark a spot.
Yes.
You're going to have to deal with that at some point. The other thing, though, that seems to be true is there are high crimes that we can commit against each other or against nature. And it seems true that upon triggering that high crime, you in life, and this is not karma, I don't think, in the way of like you'll stub your toe if you stub someone else's toe.
Right.
But I feel like there are high crimes that earmark your soul in the living space, and those that are of a vibration that love the high crime. And I think that one of them seems to be aggression against your blood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why bloodline is more powerful than we know, even if we don't like them.
Right.
But that there's elements of that take notice. Rape, murder, the real
Absolutely.
wrenching away of free will from someone else.
Right.
Those mark you. So now the vision I got, and I asked you about like what are your thoughts, but they showed me like a huge shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you're always highlighted now because you've taken a life or you've done these things in this
Mm-hmm.
malicious intent. That is hard to run from.
It is.
So, I think there's redemption for all of us. And I think that as we die and as we reincarnate, certain elements of what we do, they get logged, but they're not so permanent.
Exactly.
But if you'd rather not be plagued by certain things in the living world in this one lifetime, you can avoid doing certain things that would get you noticed.
That's exactly right.
It's like your card gets punched. It's like, now you see what I mean? I don't know.
I do agree with that, and it is like your card gets punched. I'm gonna add to that. Back once upon a time, a long time ago in my lifetime, I had an experience where I was led to make a choice. I had found something very disturbing in the bottom of the cellar steps in my home, and I was very young. And we had a business that was across the field again, and I saw this person that was at the bottom of the stairs that was no longer alive, and sitting in a pool of water because the water was in the cellar basement floor. And I felt trauma. I felt a lot of
and
trauma.
This was a recent death?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I ran up the stairs. I was there to get boots to go next door to the store that we had run as a business. And as I got there, again, trauma.
How old were you?
I was between, I want to say about
5?
9. No, it was a little older than that, because it was right after the store was in operation. It was 8 or 9.
Okay.
And I felt very, as we all do when we have trauma, we'll have a plethora of emotions. We'll have sometimes foaminess. We'll feel like we're out of body experience. We're traumatized. We don't know how to respond. We become a little bit of that comatose energy. So we have a lot of different reactions to trauma. So I made my way there, and at one point in the first few minutes, I stood there and I was looking out the door, and I had actually been home from a snowstorm. Okay. School was closed up in New York. When the school's closed with snow, it's not for an inch. It's about, 5 feet. So
yeah.
I was staring out at the snow, holding on to, actually I was holding on to a bread shelf, a bread rack, the old fashioned bread racks. And I was looking out, and I very distinctively heard, "Come with me. It's okay. No more pain. You can play. Come with me. No more pain at all. It'll all go away. You'll fit right in. Come with me. Let it all go. No more pain. Only you. Find your peace." Well,
And did it have a voice?
There's a voice. And I kept staring out in the snow, but I will tell you, what I was hearing was not the light.
And it was male or female, or you couldn't tell?
It felt more masculine, but again, it was just a feral energy is what it ended up being, what I felt. But I was mesmerized. Oh my gosh, no more pain. What kind of deal is that? Hey, I want to go there.
This just happened.
It had just happened that I'd witnessed this. And so I'm standing there holding on the rack because I was afraid I was going to walk away. I was afraid I was going to open the door, go out in the snow, down the snowbank, and that would be the end of me. And I probably would have died. Okay. From again, just 5 feet of snow out there. So I was literally holding on to the bread rack because I was afraid I was going to follow the voice. And it was very clear, and it wasn't anything, again, I wasn't schizophrenic. I had been hearing voices. I've been starting to work with the imaginary energy in my house, that realized now were guides. But I remember thinking, oh my God, no more pain? What a deal. That's like asking a kid if they want ice cream. Sure. But then I recognized that what that meant was that I in a very, again, youthfulness, I was young, I recognized that what it was the darkness was saying I could participate, that I could join in, and I would no longer feel. That I wouldn't feel the pain of others. I wouldn't feel the humility of life. I wouldn't feel the worry, the hurt, the care that I felt towards people. I could leave it all behind. I could go ahead, walk to the darkness through the snow, probably would have died.
And even at that age, so at 9,
Mhm.
you already felt, even after, I mean, obviously the entire experience of your childhood, at only 9 years, was horrible
It was very bad.
and
Yes.
crazy. But you knew that you cared about people.
Yes.
And did you just feel that at school, or like where did you feel that? Because I know that it wasn't mirrored at home. So you must have felt it towards your siblings, of
I
course.
felt it inside. I did feel it towards my siblings, but I was also think of it this way, when you're going through a lot of trauma, you are very hesitant to let anyone in because you don't know if they're friend or foe. So you're very cautious, and even instant to instant cautious, meaning it's not just I finally trust you, so I'll forever trust you. It's more,
No.
today I trust you, so tomorrow we'll reevaluate this. So for me, I always wanted
Wow.
something better. I didn't know what better was. I never knew. I used to use a common phrase of just keep me normal. God, if you keep me normal, I will do your work, whatever your work looks like. Keep me normal. Well, I didn't know what that was. I just didn't want to be crazy. I didn't want to be a murderer. I didn't want to be a psychopath or a sociopath. I didn't want to be, someone that people were frightened by. I just wanted whatever normal looked like. I saw it occasionally because I did. The store was a saving grace because we had customers that would come in,
That's
and some of
right.
them looked pretty darn normal, whatever
And we're nice
normal
to you.
is, right? And school, I
Man.
very rarely spoke in school because I had to be very guarded not to share secrets. And so, especially when I was that age, I was very, very aloof and quiet. Now, in fact, I was picked on a lot because I looked like the little roly poly that just kind of came off from, I don't know, came out of the shed. But I recognized that there was something that had to be grander and greater. I just didn't know exactly how to put it in words, but I knew that if I was to become what I was being invited to be, that there was no coming back. And
What
I
do you
did
think
feel that.
triggered?
What's that?
What do you think triggered? So, because I don't know why, but so you walk down there to grab your boots, you see what you see, and you can't, you recognize if you take any longer, someone's going to come looking for you.
Yeah, they
So
did. Yes. What are you doing down there?
and your mom
Mhm.
saw you see it,
Yes.
correct? So there was an awareness that we were
Yes.
just going to not say anything.
Yes.
So then, and you got to keep your cool.
I have to keep my
that's the
cool.
expectation.
Right. Trained cool.
So
I learned how to be cool.
yeah,
Collective.
you can't. You just grab your boots and act like, let's go to the store.
Mhm.
What do you think it is about that moment, since you couldn't sit there and really mourn it or be present with it? You're processing what happened while trying to, with a mask on.
Mhm.
Where was the gravity that happened? Like, was it that your heart broke? Like, what caused it to where this energy was like, here's the time?
I feel more than
Something's gonna
anything.
flare.
Well, and think of it from this perspective too. There was someone on the bottom of the stairs that I was looking at. I had been staring at, and so it was obvious to my mom that I knew more than I should. And so for a bit, I feel quite certain that it was more of I may be next. I really don't have anything that's going to make me feel otherwise. I don't have love in the family. I don't have a connection. I have a very abusive situation. I see someone who's no longer with us, a young male, and I wonder, okay, now I am, I'm someone who could testify against you. I'm someone who knows what you've done. So
I
at
didn't
any
even think of
moment I
that.
could leave. And I feel that started the thought of, well, no, you don't have to worry about any of this.
Oh, wow.
And if you put it in
Because the
layman's
worry.
terms, right? If you take the experience and put it in words that just kind of reverberate even further, it was the equivalent of going, yeah, you see that. I know you do. Well, darling, do you want to die or do you want to come with me? I'll show you how to be that. I'll show you to feel it, to know it, to have no other care for another human being again. It's not necessary. There's more fun in being that.
And that energy was probably something that already had quite a bit of influence with your parents, which
Yes.
by the way, we talked about this in the very first episode, but for the listeners, the second episode of Haunted on Netflix features your family
Yes.
home.
The slaughterhouse.
Yeah. And so to clarify, because if everyone's wondering how blasé you were raised by two individuals that were actively through your childhood committing murder,
Yes.
whether with some racial implications, with some anti-gay implications, and then also you would say that sometimes he just would feel wronged.
Exactly. Anything that
So
makes
it never
feel
was
like
always the right same reason to do it, but they were doing it quite a bit.
And they would find one. They would convince themselves there was a reason when one
Also,
didn't
her
exist.
book, Altered Grace, on Amazon, wherever, is her story under the pen name ATAC.
Yes.
I always link that stuff down below anyway, but also the same story about, like, you know, why you're gifted, how we kind of got here.
How we got there. You know, I am certain that what would have happened if I would have been convinced, as I was teased, you know, come follow me, it's a lot better. If I would have gone through that door, it would have led me outside into the frigid cold, and I would have died. And I'm positive of that. I have no question about that. I would have died.
So you didn't even feel they were not even yet considering you a possible tool. This was just, they were just going to take your soul, claim your
They
life.
just knew that, and I feel that, and this is a very odd thing, and someday I might even write a book about this aspect of it. But I actually felt that if that was to occur, and I was to, you know, die in the snowbank, you know, and available to the other side, the darker side, that I probably myself would live in the house as a spirit.
I agree. I mean, I was just thinking, I was like, yeah,
and so I would be a tool. I would become a tool to darkness. I'm grateful I didn't. And, you know, that was many, many years ago, as you can imagine. It was interesting. My sister was running the store. You know, my sister is 6 years older than I am. And she remembers that day. And she didn't know what had happened. I couldn't tell her, because then I would give her the same horribleness, you know, in her head as I had in mine. And so she just said, I'll never forget that. It was as if you were not there until you were. And I thought, how interesting. I was not present until I was. Because I probably, again, it was a 50-50 shot which way I was going.
Well, you know, and I obviously, because I know we're going on quite a bit of time here, which I love when we do this, but I understand you probably have a day. But I do want to ask.
A client's been calling me on my noon.
Oh no.
No, that's okay. No. She knows that I'm doing this. It's fine.
Okay, well, and then we'll close it down. But the question I wanted to ask you about is, I was up there with that house with you.
Yes.
Last year.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you would share sort of at least a little bit of an overview of what you felt, because you pushed me away. I don't have the sight that you have, and I don't have certain delicacies to that. We know what you would have been with, because we've seen what's in that home.
Yes.
So there's just kind of a feeling that there's not so much. It's just a lot of, it's like a frat house of spirits. Negative energies.
Yes.
And they coalesce together.
Yes. Well, and that's what we see oftentimes in a house where there's a lot of disturbing events that have taken place. You know, for me, I had my guides and a team that were trying to be supportive and protective.
Thank God.
But once we leave, you know, once I left, my guides left with me, then the house was left to its own device. Now, we recognize that it did have other people in it for a while. My nephew took it over, and he's very intuitive, and tried to clear it as best he could. Right. And so the house then sat vacant. So can you imagine a house that's got a lot of darkness, a lot of evil intention, sitting abandoned? I mean, how much fun could that be for it? What's that?
And a lot of X marks the spot, because life was taken in that home.
Yes.
Correct?
So there's a lot of, you know, those probably trying to get out, as well as those that were keeping them there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason why I pushed you back is I very distinctively saw a very old, wretched soul, a wretched woman with very long, long fingers, you know, kind of almost the witch of the books, you know, reaching out for you. And I thought, oh no, that's not going to happen. So,
and I was surprised. I mean, I just couldn't feel it.
And that's okay. You know, really, why would you want to?
No, but you know what I mean? It's like there was an awareness, there was an alertness to you that I hadn't really ever seen before across many times in that trip. Because there was quite a bit of duress that trip for us. But it was wild to really, because for that to present itself to you in that way,
yes,
it's like, well, I couldn't have seen that crone look. So was that for your benefit? Was that just the nature of that energy?
I'll tell you what it felt like to me. And this is going to sound, and it's kind of like, oh gosh, this is a way to leave a podcast. But
We'll go out with a bang.
it felt to me as if the woman was saying, look, you can see me. Can I have her?
That's so funny. That's so funny.
And obviously the answer was no. But the energy.
But it didn't ask for you.
No.
Or Derek. Derek looks so sick. Didn't go for Brian or
No.
so it was a female thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was basically showing me like kind of like, can I have her? Can I have her?
That's so funny. Yeah. Wow. Well, one day, I mean, and with Derek's permission, of course, it would be very fun to just really just talk about that trip.
Yes.
Because that was so interesting.
And, you know, for all of those viewers that have looked, because I know that we've had several people that have been kind of looking for the property and all of that. The property is pretty dilapidated. It's you know, the roof is falling in. It's actually very dangerous to enter in now. Since we've been there, they've had a lot of things. The stairs have come undone in the cellar and moved on. You know, there's a lot of water built up there. The water there is extremely dark and thick, a blackness in the cellar. It looks like oil, but there's no oil on site. There's no oil in the soil. So there's a lot of things. Don't go looking for it. It's not worth it. I don't go back. If I don't go back, neither should you. I do this for a living. Unless you do and you want to take a risk, I don't recommend it.
And I would have thought that, I would have thought the skinwalkers would take it down after what happened in New York.
Well, you know, again, there's a lot of things that we don't recognize in the physical world. A lot of kind of, I don't want to say deal breakers, but a lot of barriers and boundaries, even in the spiritual realm. You know, you don't touch what you haven't created. And you become almost a watcher of energy sometimes, but not someone who is deemed to be in charge of it.
Yeah, you're not a police. You're not going.
No.
But I thought because of their his transgressions on them, it would have allowed it. But if it's locked by space and time, I get it.
And you know, from my viewpoint on that, they probably know a little bit in a different way, more than we do. And they recognize that tearing down a house on the soil isn't going to do anything other than just allow it to bleed back into the land itself.
Wow.
And nobody, especially Skinwalker, Native American energy, wants the soil to be tainted, right?
Wow.
So,
yeah,
a lot of things to consider.
Well, and it is beautiful too, because on some level, thank goodness, but your family and where they live, they do live on the part that is under protection.
Very much so.
So that's a beautiful aspect too of where your family is and how they don't, you know, that house never was, but where Derek took his family, there is a beautiful family. They're kind of good. It's really, really beautiful to feel that around them.
It is. Absolutely.
But, all right. Well, we have done it. I'm going to let you get to your client.
We have done it.
Of you. I can't wait. We will, next week we'll figure out where we want to go from this, because I know there's more that I want to get into, especially with the ghosts and the spirit. We love this on some level. This is what we do.
We do. We went all over the place in the paranormal, dabbled here, dabbled there. You know, we're kind of like a rainstorm, right? Drips here, drips there. We'd love to be a part of your day.
Well, they say the favorite podcast, meander.
That's what I love. Meander around. Let's get the facts out. Let's get the story out. But first, we lead with love.
I love you so much.
I love you so much.
I cannot wait to see you. And we'll talk soon. And we'll talk.
Yes, and then, as always, if you have any comments or questions, or you want to be asking questions that can be answered on our program, please feel free. Reach out. And Sterling has all the information below.
Yes, all of the links to get to us will be down below. And as always, we'll see you next Friday.
We'll be here.
All right. Take care.
Bye.